Working from home in a consistent, focused, goal-driven, productive way is the key to realising your dreams, goals and aspirations and living your own life on your own terms. And it is only attainable by crushing your procrastination habits with the help, guidance and support of a professional accountability coach. Hi, I'm Robin J. Emdon and I have a question for you. How come people working in regular workspaces like offices and stores rarely struggle with work-related procrastination, but people working from home on their own projects that are often as important or even more important to them frequently struggle with chronic, debilitating procrastination? The answer? Accountability. Whether you're a student working towards your degree or a call centre operative or a store worker, the one thing these folks all have in common are people in a position to hold you accountable if you don't do the work. Wait a minute, aren't students the most notorious procrastinators? Yes, they most certainly are, and in fact many do fail, quit or have to ask for extensions and or accept lower grades than they know they could have achieved if they hadn't succumbed to procrastination. Even students have teaching supervisors who ultimately have to and will penalise them for not doing the work. Millions of workers with regular traditional jobs all have people in senior positions that will discipline, sanction and ultimately fire them if they don't do their jobs. But people independently working from home with no manager or computer logging their every work-related action understand there are consequences if they are not productive. However, with no one holding them directly accountable on a day-to-day basis, they frequently get lost in life-changing, damaging, chronic procrastination. Until now. Now, with the professional support of a trained accountability coach, independent working from home people have a virtual boss or manager or whatever you want to call them, their go-to person to strategise about time management, develop a plan, schedule, goal set and be held accountable to if they don't do the work. As a life coach and someone who has worked from home for decades, I must have literally dozens of productivity strategies available to me and my clients. Big strategies, small strategies, obvious ones, obscure ones, all help to some degree with overcoming procrastination. But remember, in the traditional workplace, procrastination is rarely a serious problem, mainly because of accountability. It's as simple as ABC. When you introduce effective accountability into your working environment at home, you will be able to work consistently, purposefully, progressively and productively on the things that really matter to you. It's a total win-win. Not only will you have the pleasure of being at home with your family and your creature comforts, the flexibility, depending on what you do, to schedule when you work and when you play, you will also have the absolute certainty that when it's time to work, procrastination is not going to sabotage your work and your life ever again. Now that's a bold promise. So how do you know if this is real? That's a fair question. First of all, accountability as an effective procrastination crusher is backed up by the science. A heck of a lot of research has been done in the last 40 years into procrastination, and unsurprisingly a great deal of it has been done on the topic of student procrastination. For example, research done in 2007 by the American Psychological Association said this: high teacher expectations also play an important role in procrastination. The higher the expectation and the greater the accountability the student was held to, the less procrastination each student reported. Courses that students perceived as easy invite a lot of procrastination for two reasons. One is that the teacher does not expect much. A second is that easy teachers often are more willing to extend deadlines or show more sympathy for student excuses for unfinished coursework. Hopefully you can see this is all highly relevant to work from home procrastination as well, and why a professional accountability coach can provide a similar support system and experience to a well-trained student supervisor. And the second reason you know this is a real thing is almost certainly your own life experiences. I invite you to think back through your own life and the times when, were it not for the fact that someone was holding you accountable, it would have been all too easy to procrastinate. Naturally, I cannot possibly know what your own life experiences are, but if you've ever handed in school homework late, been worried about being late for work or late with a work project, had bills to pay by a specific deadline, then you will know that the fear of bad, sometimes terrible consequences for failing to do what you're supposed to be doing is a very powerful motivator. So, if you've ever not followed through with your working from home projects, failed to make significant progress towards building your dreams, goals and aspirations, it's not your fault. That's because unlike all the systems and sanctions senior authority figures have in place to hold you accountable in the traditional workplace, when you're completely working for yourself at home, accountability is the single biggest thing that's almost certainly not there. It's MIA, missing in action, or if it is there in some form like a loving and supportive partner or friend, frankly whatever it is, it's not yet strong enough to motivate you, get you unstuck and crush your chronic procrastination. I'm thinking here, for instance, about your family. Being a family-orientated man myself, I know that one of the fears of a chronic procrastinator is having to look your loved ones in the eye and tell them that you didn't achieve what you needed to and could have. It's embarrassing, and you inevitably feel guilty about it, particularly if it means that the family can't afford to pay for things you all want or need to have. However, this kind of accountability, facing up to your friends and family, does work for some and for all some of the time. But if you are still chronically procrastinating, then let's be brutally honest and say it's clearly not enough. Without that strong feeling of urgency, without breaking things down into manageable pieces, and without someone to report back to that you are making tangible progress, the dragon called chronic procrastination has free rein to wreak absolute havoc with our lives. And it does, and it always will, unless you slay that dragon. So why do we procrastinate if it makes no logical, rational sense, and why do we procrastinate less if we're being held accountable? The answer is very simple and very biological. Yup, we're hardwired to procrastinate. It has something to do with the oldest, most instinctive part of our brain that's apparently called by those that know the limbic system. I'm reliably informed that this is the part of the brain that seeks out pleasure, avoids pain, and causes us to be easily distracted. The rational, logical, clear-thinking and evolutionary younger part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, is smarter but easily overpowered unless it's given some kind of backup and support. In the traditional workplace, it's people in senior positions to you who will do this. They will require you not to look at your phone when you're working, and no, you can't just have the day off because you feel like it. You have to be dead or dying before they're going to let you do that. In other words, despite your natural limbic system tendencies to want to do things that you find fun and pleasurable, your prefrontal cortex is rationally telling you that if those things happen to not be your work, then you're going to get fired. So, should you get a paid professional accountability coach or a free accountability buddy? Assuming you can find a good one, you can definitely get a lot of benefits from working with an accountability buddy. Here's some top tips that will help you in picking one. You need to find someone who cares, really cares about your progress. This matters because probably the biggest drawback of an accountability buddy is that they may not be reliable. They have lives, commitments, other interests and any number of things that can mean even with the best of intentions, they may not always be there when you really need them to be, and they can let you down badly. They need to be trustworthy and they need to be good at giving you positive reinforcement and being non-judgmental. More on this in a moment. Finally, they need to give you good advice when asked, and as I've hinted at already, they must be dependable. Just to be clear though, if your accountability buddy is not good at giving you positive reinforcement and can be judgmental, which is so often the case with our nearest and dearest family and friends, they're probably not going to be good for you as an accountability buddy. Therefore, whenever I've needed to prioritise something that really needs to get done, something that's really important, I've always gone to a professional. What's the difference? Dependability, training, experience, and fee versus free. Now, whilst I genuinely believe that a good accountability buddy may serve you well, when you hire an accountability coach, they're bringing to the table those very key 4 things as well. They ought to be dependable. It's their profession. If they're not dependable, they're not going to be around for long. You can hope that an accountability buddy will be around when you need them, but you can't expect them to be. An accountability coach should be there when they say they're going to be there. It's their job. They're accountable to you for doing that. Accountability buddies are not trained. They're just being a good friend, which should be fine. But with bigger projects, maybe even for you life-changing projects, a properly trained accountability coach is simply going to be better skilled at helping you plan, goal set, strategize, break things down into manageable pieces, and so on. Accountability coaches are experienced at what they do. By definition, an accountability coach has seen it all before. They ought to just know what to do with almost any procrastination versus productivity problem you can throw at them. Finally, fee versus free. An accountability buddy by definition works for free. It may well be, and often is, a reciprocal arrangement where you're being their accountability buddy too. That works. If you've got the time, why not? However, you will be familiar, I'm sure, with the simple fact that we instinctively put more value on things we pay for than things we get for nothing. Do I really need to labour this point? Suffice to say, you paid to be held accountable. Now look, no accountability coach in the world can force you to do the work. They can't, and frankly that's not their job. But if you don't follow through on what you said you were going to follow through on, then you're not just wasting their time and yours with your excuses, you're wasting your own money. Most people don't like wasting money, so that can be a very powerful incentive to do what you said you were going to do. Ultimately, the choice is entirely yours. If you're confident you can get unstuck, productive and away from the chronic procrastination with an accountability buddy, then absolutely go for it. However, remember, we're all hardwired to procrastinate. There's no cure for it. Let things slide and you'll go straight back to it. Instead, we have to get smart and use the best strategies we can for overcoming it, again and again and again. And holding ourselves accountable to someone is by far the most powerful and effective way to stop procrastinating when working from home. Naturally, I'm biased. I am an accountability coach. I've been very clear and honest about that. It's all over this video and all the others I make too. But also, if there was a Nobel Prize for the world's biggest procrastinator, I'd be in with a real shot at winning it. Chronic procrastination and me, we go way back. Lifelong buddies. I've had many accountability buddies over the years. Ultimately, they all let me down and always for what were totally fine and good reasons. Do I have my own accountability coach now? You bet I do. Do I still struggle with chronic procrastination? Absolutely. Every single day, but not for long. I got productive work to do and an accountability coach to report back to. What can I say? It works! Time to get to work, so please comment below if you found this video helpful and hop over to the Facebook page for more tips, hints and support. My name is Robin J. Emdon. Subscribe and tune in to the next video on this YouTube channel where you can finally discover how to stop procrastinating and live your own life on your own terms.